Hi, hi.
I see our attendees trickling in. Welcome, everyone, to another week of Lunch with Lunsford. Mark, we have a theme song now, and I selected to play it. So that's
this is the new one.
Well, we have multiple theme songs. Stay tuned for next week when we have like a finessed, beautiful final version of the theme song, delightfully crafted for us by some of our Oberon sound folks who are incredibly generous and very thoughtful with time. So I'm so happy to say that today we are joined by the wonderful Diana O. Hi, Diana. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Our very own Sophie Ancival. Hi, Sophie. It's so great to have you both together in this virtual room with us. And as ever, we're so grateful for all of you for tuning in. In addition to Lunch with Lunsford today, we have another exciting event this evening at 6 p.m. It's called 1776 in Dialog. It's going to be a fabulous discussion between our artistic director, Diane Paulus, Harvard professor Tim McCarthy, and one of our delightful cast members, Onika Phillips, moderated by yours truly. I'm going to put the registration link in the chat area. If any of you would like to join us this evening, feel free to register. We would love to see you.
Sarah, you're just having a Zoomy day.
I'm having a very Zoomy day. I think every day for me is a Zoomy day, and I am loving it. So no complaints. Well, I'm really so grateful for all of you. Mark, thank you for being an incredible host. Diana and Sophie, thank you for being wonderful guests. This is about that time of the hour where I disappear and turn it over to y'all. So I look forward to seeing all of you next week, and have a good hour. Enjoy the lunch.
Bye, Sarah.
Hey, y'all. How's it going? This is like Clairvoyance, the reunion. Like, I feel, like it was like a Real Housewives of Clairvoyance.
This is a reality TV show now.
It really is.
We're like trying to get ready for set. I was like, do I have my mic? Is it all? Oh my God, how could I forget? Please keep talking.
Oh God, okay. So welcome, friends. Thanks for joining us again today for another exciting Lunch with Lunsford. Today, as Sarah mentioned, we're joined by the incredible Diana O and Sophie Ancival.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, go ahead.
You raised your hand. Hi.
I didn't. It was a mistake.
So we're going to talk today about clairvoyance, which is a set of performance pieces we did last year. Diana created and Sophie and I produced at A.R.T. And then we're also going to just really dig into an exciting convo about your artistic practice, Diana, which I think is going to be such a great chat, especially for our quarantine times.
Cool.
So I thought we would actually, my favorite thing to talk about whenever we talk about clairvoyance is always to sort of dig into the inception story. And I think we kind of always do this best when, like, you tell your version of the 6 months before. It's like some sort of like Netflix drama where like, like before the phone conversation that you and I had, there's like the journey that you were on and the journey that I was on that led us to that conversation. So I wonder, like, should you go first or I go first?
I'll jump in.
Great.
Wait, no, are you ready? I don't know. It's hard to read energies over Zoom. Are you ready? You're ready.
No. I'm mine's much less interesting, so I think like you starting is really great, and then I'll sort of fill in.
Okay. Okay. It's a very like eat, pray. What the fuck? We were initially gonna do my lingerie play at Oberon, and then I had this realization that, I'm not so sure. And then I was in this jungle in Thailand, as I'd used some grant money to go there. And then I saw a clairvoyant there, and she was just like, whatever this project is that you're working on, let it go. And you need to focus on your music right now. And I was like, wow, weight lifted. You just said exactly what I was too afraid to say. And then I think I texted my agent or emailed him with, there was very little service, and obviously it was a jungle. And I was just like, I don't want to do my lingerie play. Tell them I'll do a concert. Just tell them I'll do a concert. And he was like, I don't know if they're gonna, yeah, because we promised them a project. And I was like, all we can do is ask. And so now I'm a big believer is all we can do is ask from here on out for everything. Where it's like, you have COVID, all you can do is ask, right? So, and then you wrote back and you were like, cool. From my understanding, he explained it as we trust her, she can do whatever she wants vibes. And, we're really interested in her installation work and all of that. And so from there, it kind of became this made up year where I felt like I got to say what I thought was cool. And then you got to say what you thought was cool. And then I got to say what I thought was cool about that. And we invented this year of being out there and doing, 4 installations, and it would culminate into a concert, and y'all hooked me up with different spaces, and we got to dreamscape, and but I never felt like I was working for a machine. It always felt like I got to speak up my seeds.
Yeah, I mean, we had initially your piece, My Lingerie Play, which so many of us were in love with, which for folks who aren't familiar was almost like 10 installations, right? It was like numerous interventions that led up to this concert moment at Rattlestick.
Yeah.
Over the course of a year. So we were having, this dream about like, what if we did those installations in Boston and we did the concert at Oberon, and this was so exciting. So I had approached Diana's agent and said, we'd love to bring MLP to Boston and to Oberon and bring Diana here for the year and like do this thing. And then it brings us to the conversation where he wrote me back and he said, My Lingerie Plays, we're not, that's not of interest, but Diana like wants to come and do a concert. And my impulse was like, and not just me, like our team, it was like the reason that we were drawn is because we know there is an energy connection between Diana O and Oberon. We are sure that exists. And so we jumped on My Lingerie Play because it was the thing that we knew, but like, actually, why don't we make our own thing? And, A.R.T, we'd love to do that stuff. Like, let's break it up and do something different. Like, why do we have to do the same thing again? And so I actually think it's always funny to me to hear this side of like, I don't know if they're going to go for that because that's not what they asked for. And on our side, that email was incredibly exciting. We're like, wait, she wants to just make something new? And so I think it was super liberating for us, and it threw us into like, okay, let's like really think differently about how this can work. So what I think you and I talked in like April.
Oh my God, happy 1 anniversary.
2 year.
Happy, oh my God, what the heck? Wow. Okay, cool.
So we had that conversation, and I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the equation we hit was like, the installations are really powerful, and let's do new ones. Let's make new ones together, and let's do a concert in Oberon. And that was sort of like where we landed on what Clairvoyance was going to be. And like, we'll figure it out, but that's loosely what we're going to look at. And then like enter Sophie.
Yeah.
In June.
Hi,
right?
Sophie.
Hi, Diana.
Hi.
Yeah, I remember we met in person in June at the TCG conference.
Yeah.
We were all there in St. Louis. And we all sat down and we all discussed what could be and like the possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And vibing with Sophie, I mean, I always just talk about how important it is that producers and artists get along, and more so that producers really understand the artists, like really understand their process, their personality, how they, see the world. And I felt like Sophie was such a globe traveling, like art, sponge. Like, you know, she's just a very experiential person. And I was, you know, and she felt very spiritual to me. And I just, it's like the difference between what my agent wrote to you in the email would have been so different if it came from me, because I would have been like, I just went to a clairvoyant. She just told me to like let it go. I'm gonna listen to her because like I think she has the sight, you know.
Actually, Ben might have like forwarded excerpts.
Oh, that's awesome. That's yeah. That we can like put that in the in our
scrapbook.
Yeah, our picture book. You know, but I do feel very seen by Ben. Like I can open up to him and be like, I just had an awakening, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think that relationship with Sophie made it possible for me to speak without fear, without needing the permission of like, is this an okay idea? Where it felt like I got to say my idea, right? I feel like I get to say the impetus, say what inspired me, specifically about Harvard Yard, you know, what was it about these different spaces that inspired me? And then it was a very yes, and, you know, and she also has there's a big appetite there. And I feel that too. I just feel like I have a similar big appetite.
So Sophie, you start at A.R.T. in June.
In June.
And I think one of the first meetings you and I had, I was like, okay, here's the first project you're going to live produce. And we don't know what it is. We know these things about it, but like your job is to like work with Diana to help make whatever these installations are going to be a thing. What's that like? Like you're just getting to know organization. And I'm also now saying like, also, you're not line producing this musical. You're going to redefine what line producing is, or like what that process is in this first project go.
Yeah, I think what was super exciting and really fun is just like, here's Diana, who's an artist we really want to work with, and we really want to like see what she can do and be like, this is an open book. What can we do with it? And I think like starting from there, I don't come from theater. I didn't grow up in theater. I had a whole other life before. And so being with Diana and that being my first project with the A.R.T. after having done other like very traditional theater projects was just like, my mind just blew up completely and was just like, okay, so it was just about listening and creating space for Diana to express it. And so it felt really good to be in a space where I could, it's going to sound corny, but like expand the boundaries of theater. Like this is like, I came for A.R.T. for that. And that was that, like the first project we start, and that's what it is. So yeah, it felt really, really good. And as you said, Diana, we vibed very quickly together. I was really scared the first meeting. I was like, yeah, because it's like, we're going to work with Diana. Oh, we had a project. Now it's changing. We don't know what it's going to be. And there I was just like, okay, what is it going to be? And let's not like get it wrong or anything like that. Like, so it was really good to have a blank slate.
So let me talk a little bit about what it became, or at least let people know sort of what the installations were. And if folks did their homework and watched the amazing 9-minute video that we sent out, and if you didn't, we'll send it out again afterwards so you can get a look at it. But it's the incredible video that John did that is just like a retrospective on the year. And it's wonderfully moving. And I can't speak for the two of you, but for me, it was always being able to see how everything connected in the way that video perfectly illustrates how all of these pieces were connected, right? Because I think you sit and you wonder in the time between the installations, like, is the audience following us? Are they staying on the journey with us? Are they connecting the pieces? Do we care if they are? Do they need to? And I felt like this video brings it into full view. So we start. Yeah, go.
May I jump in and explain it? Because I think it'll help. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
So, because what I wanted to also express is that John is a forever collaborator. You know, he's been with me since my lingerie play. He's going to continue to be with me until the day I die. There's something about working with him. And just like I was saying, like, I'm only really able to work with producers who really understand my personality, and we can hang out and we are friends, and like we do text each other all the time, sweet nothings, you know. And with John, that trust is so there that you know, he doesn't have this weird ulterior motive. He is, I feel like he's deeply listening and deeply dropping in, and he has such an empathetic eye that it has gotten to the point for me where, you know, I can't really work with another videographer. I can't quite work with another person who can capture the work, because I have so much trust of this person's lens. And he really gets, you know, I just have to like explain what it is in 3 minutes, and he gets it. And I think the thing with this installation work, right, with my lingerie play, with clairvoyance, there is an overarching theme to it. You know, it's always like the thing and then the intention. So for clairvoyance, it was installations and a concert, centering and celebrating queer magic. For my lingerie play, it was installations and a concert, to make the world safer and braver for queer, trans, women, non-binary folks. And so I think that's what kind of lends itself to togetherness, even if there's so much time that passes between these installations, because at least I know what the kind of aesthetic of it, you know, and the intention. And intention is a really, really big word for me, that if I don't do it without intention, it's just empty and it's going to fall flat. And if it feels flat to me, then there's just, I've come to realize that it's not that I'm an artist, it's that I'm a truth seeker and I'm a truth teller. That's it. That's kind of all I'm interested in. And so John, okay, so the installations was Chosen Family Portraits in Harvard Yard, and it was inviting folks in to take their family portraits and those who identified with having chosen family, knowing that for a lot of queer, trans, non-binary folks, you know, you choose your family. And I realized that chosen family is the family you kind of grow into, who understand your sexuality, who understand sex, who understand that fire, who can hold that and not judge you for it and celebrate it. So that's what chosen family means to me. So we did that in Harvard Yard, and then we did
library.
Yes. White People Read / What Don't You Want to Hold On to Alone Anymore at the Boston Public Library, and that was probably one of my favorite experiences ever. And I'm happy to expand more on that after explaining these things. And the third one was The Artist in Their Element at the Institute of Contemporary Art, which is a very, very large historical national museum. And then the fourth installation was this concert, tying in together everyone I had met throughout the year that Sophie and Mark and folks at A.R.T. had introduced me to. You know, a lot of these people were multifaceted artists. They were musicians. They were other things. They were burlesque dancers. They were freaks. They in my mind, they were just like liberated, joyful artists, capital A. And so they were involved in the concert. And then I think we arrived on the word retrospective, where we brought in all the art from the installations and put them in the ART, in the Oberon space. And, you know, true to my nature, I was just like, just clear up all the furniture. We got to bring in the fuzzy stuff, the soft stuff. You know, it's like the empathetic queer romance. We just got to bring it in here. And then it was the tree planting. And I think I kind of always, and that came a lot from, you know, being in that jungle in Thailand, going to a deeper place. And I speak about how clairvoyance really, the year grew me downwards more than anything. And I'm forever changed. You know, you watered me. And yeah, Yeah, great.
No, I mean, like, you know, I don't know if this is necessarily the right word to use for my lingerie play, but what always has occurred to me since Clairvoyance finished is like MLP is sort of like the assertion. I don't want to say it's the confrontation. Maybe that's the right word. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But it's the like we're taking our space. Like, this is our space. And then Clairvoyance was like, and now we're going to celebrate inside that space and like lift up everything that makes everyone a powerful artist, person, human. And it felt, those things felt very connected to me, you know, whether intentional or not. I think that speaks to your vision, because I felt like that was very important and central to the work.
Yeah, and I think that was also part of why I was kind of able to let MLP just kind of like fly in a different way, because I think because I had focused so much on my healing, I was just in a very different headspace where I didn't want to scream anymore. You know, I wanted to just kind of like ease into it. And also part of the year for me was doing Infinite Love Party at Bushwick Star in between. I can't remember between which things it was, but the timing was, because that happened in January.
Between the library and the ICA.
Yeah.
Between the library and the ICA, that makes sense. You know, putting up Infinite Love Party, and I'm also writing my hate letter to the Great American Theater, which is the reading that happened in July, right after my year at Clairvoyance wrapped up. And, you know, it was holding all this love and also this hate, and also, you know, it was just kind of allowing everything to be true. Yeah. And my friend Ray McCarthy had said that, well, you have to kind of express the hate so that you have a reason to create these spaces of love.
So this is a question for both of you, I think, to speak to. You know, so we say like, okay, we're going to do this work. We're going to spend a year making this work. And we really wanted to talk about it like as a residency. Like, it's not just about like, why don't you jet up on this weekend and we'll do this installation, and then like rock up on this weekend and we'll do this installation. It was like, no, Diana, like the invitation is like to come be in Boston, be in Cambridge, like soak us and it in, meet the incredible artists that are here in this community. And we went back and forth a lot. I'm like, what do we call this, right? Like, what are we saying about this residency? And we landed on calling it Artist and Community. And I wonder if we can, both of you can kind of reflect on your thoughts in terms of what defined it as Artist and Community, or what Artist and Community meant, and how that fed the creation of the installation pieces in the concert.
I think for me, it was understanding very early that, Diana, you came with, like, as you said, like, John is your forever collaborator, and very early understanding that you don't create in a vacuum, and you create with people, and that's that love for artists and the work that is around you, like the art that is around you, that creates, that feeds you, and that creates even more. And so I think from my perspective, it was giving you the opportunity to meet people and see what came out of that. And I think very early on, the first part was, it was not about what was going to come out at all. It was about, let's create dates. Like, let's have you meet people in the community that you have here in Boston, and what can come out of that. And I think that was just nurturing that sense of community is the first step that came to create that artist in community idea. At least for me, and how it was planned. It was just like, I felt like I was an art Tinder. I created things.
Totally. Love it. It just felt so catered to my personality. Like, it just felt like applying to like fun school, you know. Have fun, meet people, you know, which I really love to do. And that's kind of the job, you know. And what I appreciated about the year is that there was so much flow there, and it didn't come from this cerebral, like, but we got to figure out this beginning, middle, and end. There was just this trust that, like, if you flow into it, if you follow your gut, your intuition, your heart, it's going to work out. And I find that, you know, those spaces are really rare to, and also receive the capital to make that possible. And I also feel like what lent itself to a really exciting year is that we were workshopping the year as it went, you know, and if we were to do it again, it's like that would just be it would be a completely different year, because as we grow, it grows. As we change, it changes. And now we know, kind of like it's like the house is built, and now we actually know how to remodel it to make it into like the most banging house we want to live in, you know.
It's funny when I think about like the institutions that partner with us, right? Because in particular, in the case of the Boston Public Library and the ICA, Sophie, I think you would agree, like, they were both like, yeah.
Yeah.
Questions. We want to do this. We want to do this with Diana. We want to do this with y'all. And they walked in with the same sort of like openness and heart forwardness about the work in a way that was really exciting. And then I feel like when we have spoken about this residency with other peer theaters, other peer theatrical institutions, there's always this like, you guys didn't know what you were doing. You know, like they think we're being cute or something. And it's like, no. Don't misunderstand. Like, we knew what was at the center of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Like, we knew what our guiding energy was. And maybe we didn't know like exactly how many cans of paint we were going to need for this installation at this time, but we knew that there was this like agreed upon communal bond that was going to guide this work. And so we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
We didn't know it in the way that like we have come to understand traditional theater producing.
And there's nothing like a good deadline. Like, I feel like a place and a deadline, then the world can just open to the idea. Because I trusted very much that no matter what we were going to do, something amazing was going to come out of it. And like the role of the producer, my role was just to create the conditions for that to happen. You would do the rest. Like, you would do your artist work and role and growth and creation. But the deadline, the place, and everything was fine after that. I don't think like there's anything more that needed to come from us in what you would create.
And this is how I know you are a forever collaborator. You know what I mean? Because the way that you just expressed that makes me feel so freaking safe and so possible. Like it actually it makes me feel impossible, because it's like the impossible is completely possible, you know. And also the way that you're able to, you know, that beautiful thing of like, as a producer, I'm creating the conditions for the artist to make art, you know. And it's such a simple thing, and it's so rare to get that level of artistic freedom, you know. And I work in the same exact way of like, there's nothing better than a deadline and a space. And I do feel that way. I have that level of confidence as a human and as an artist, that if I'm given a deadline and a space, I will do my thing, you know.
Can I want to zoom in a little bit if I can.
God, is that a pun?
I was going to say Zoom puns are, they're losing their charm here in week 11 of quarantine. So I want to talk about one of my most favorite moments of the concert and museum performance. And it's this moment sort of near the end of Clairvoyance, the concert in Oberon, a little over a year ago at the end of April, where you sing this song called Pure. That is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. Did you write Pure alone, or did you write Pure with
I wrote it in the room with Matt for 24 Hour Punk, but it was definitely took the charge. I was like, I got this. I'm channeling.
It's such a beautiful song, and it leads into this ceremony where we as the audience get involved in the performance. So this moment is one of the most like potent that gets to you as an artist, Diana, because there's so much about this that is like about you sort of giving of yourself and of your collaborators and your experience, hoping that an audience can hold on to that and use it for healing in themselves, or for identity in themselves, or for power. And then we hit this moment where, like, so for folks who weren't at the concert, Diana does this invitation, and then I was amazed that every night everyone was up. Everyone was up and in line and like wanted to be a part of this soil moment. And we took the time that was necessary for each person in the house to get to receive the soil, take their moment with it, and offer it to the vessel. And to watch that translate into next day to the Arboretum, where Ned was like such a supporter of you and us and of the work that we were doing, and to watch that soil that everyone at the concert had touched and given their own hopes, their own sorrows, their own whatever into this moment to feed this tree and give it life, was just like, lay me out. Like, as like ritual, as healing, it's like we're transcending religion, we're transcending like all of the categories in which we put ourselves to be sort of humans in this moment. It's just, I feel like I don't have a question. I just wanted to talk about how moving it is. But I like the illustration of that. I just wonder if you can talk about, this like getting the audience to participate in this incredibly meaningful way that is about sort of giving of their spirit to this piece.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying all that. I learn something about it every time I watch it, and I learn something about it every time someone kind of talks about what they pick up on and what they're seeing. And as far as these invitations go to a room, I guess I didn't feel fazed by it, because for my lingerie play, we had created a super hot, sexy, enthusiastic consent workshop that my collaborators, Ryan Johnstone Mann and myself, how are we going to get people to make out with me on stage to practice consent, And so I was just used to kind of asking the room, would anyone like to make out with me? And putting that invitation out there, that kind of inviting a whole room to put soil into a vessel was like, oh, well, it's very simple, would you like to put soil in this vessel? It is that simple. It's clear. I wrote this line in Hate Letter where, clarity is kindness and kindness is clarity. And as long as the intention is clear and you know why you're asking it, and then you can communicate that, and then you always leave, it's okay if you don't want to. Literally, it's fine. There's no right or wrong here. Then that's it. I can't control whether people will want to do it or not. And I also find that music is a manipulative mother effer. It'll make you do anything.
It's so real.
It was such a moving moment, seeing a line of everybody.
Yeah. Every night.
The one last thing I want to talk about, and then before we get into just sort of a higher level, like artistic conversation, the plant is also beautiful, by the way. What is this plant?
Thank you. This plant is a plant that I got from my partner that almost died like 4 times. It's actually not doing very well, but because of clairvoyance and planting the tree, I was like, I can do this. I can have plants. So this, 9 states. It's been on the run since the pandemic hit. It came from New York down to Florida, back up to New York, now to Cambridge. It's coming with me everywhere.
Oh, I love that. It's a quarantine pal. Will you guys, talk about that first meeting with Ned at the Arboretum? I mean, the Arboretum was also like such a magical,
oh my God,
reveal in all of this. I know it's like Sophie and I were like, all right, we're at Harvard. Who at Harvard's going to let us plant a tree? Where are we going to do this tree planting? Everyone has to be able to walk from Oberon. We were like sort of all over the place. And then we had a relationship with Ned in the Arboretum through a different production, and someone, it might have been Ryan McKittrick, had sort of,
Ryan McKittrick.
Yeah.
Like, I know Ned.
But Ned was so like on the wavelength immediately.
Do you remember, Diana, that first meeting? We went to the Arboretum on a very gray day and very cold. And Ned started to talk to us about plants and how queer plants are. And yeah. And like how it connected artistically. Do you want to talk about that, Diana, a little more?
I mean, I found Ned to be like the punk rocker of everything. The punk rocker of the world, where he's just like, I literally do my thing and I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about. I wait for no one's permission. And I care. He understood trees' personalities, and he was just so down, and there was no judgment. There was no like, what's the word? There was no like, mine. It was just a very like, cool, man. Like, you're here, bruh. Like, all right, and he was talking about the queerness of plants, that they kind of, I forget the science, but it's really great. And I mean, the thing that really got me, that I took as a sign, when circular signs happen, I always take it as a sign that you're exactly where you need to be, is when there are portraits everywhere in the lobby of old Korean trees planted in Korea, in Jeju Island, from like I forget the year.
20s, probably.
1920s, right? And I just like immediately tears, like, and I had never seen that before. I'd never seen trees in Korea appreciated in that way, and to even hear Ned talk about the appreciation of that. And he just got it, and I was scared. I remember going into that meeting feeling like this was a meeting with like television producers and like film producers to like sell them the script or whatever, to be like, oh my God, I really hope he likes it. I remember Sophie had even been like, just be yourself, it'll be great, but we really need him on our side. So and it was magical.
It was.
Yeah.
We had a call with him. Again, another partner. I found just amazing how partners all over the city were just so down, and like with full open arms of like, what do you want to do? Never an ounce of judgment of like, what is it? We're going to have like people reading books written by folks of color everywhere, and we're going to read it to white people, or we're going to invite only the white people to do that. Like, never there was a question of the intention and the artistic intention behind everything that was done from our partners, and that was really great.
And I think that's where institutions can feel really empowered, and people who run institutions, because that is, you're able to provide so much access to incredible space that an artist alone can't knock on the door and be like, I would like to do an installation in the museum now. I just feel like the difference between like me coming up with like a little post-it saying like, I'm thinking like white people, like just put like the white people in the lobby, they'll read books, it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna be in my underwear in like that room, and it's just an incredible gift. And I want to draw attention to that big thank you list that scrolled during Bad Motherfucker.
Oh, right.
I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to be swearing, but Okay. Life. So, you know, and there was just this big thank you list to everyone. And I really, I'm floored by how generous people were to really put themselves out there, and how many people did. And thank you for that. I mean, you really gave me a gift. Everyone who helped make that year happen, I'm forever changed and strengthened, and it's informed the course of my life in ways that you couldn't even imagine.
I want to talk about this a little more, because I want to talk about like the undefinable artist, right? Before we go into that, I just want to remind folks, we'll get to some questions. If you've got questions to ask, we are here for them. Drop them in the Q&A, and we'll come back to those in just a moment. But you know, the installations have always been so impactful. Just singular me, I'm always, you know, incredibly inspired by them. And I think a lot about like what we hold sacred as space, or what our relationship is as performer to space, and what that means. And you said this thing, Diana, when we were chatting on Thursday, that I like immediately wrote down. That I think you had said to me before, but that you want to teach, quote, I want to teach space its potential, and I want to teach people their potential. And I wonder if you can talk about that a little bit more in the context of like not being a theater artist with a capital T, right? But being an artistic voice and flexing, and so across so many different genres and styles. Yeah. In different space with different people.
Yeah. I mean, you really cracked my mind open when you had talked about, when we had that conversation a few days ago, and you're like, oh, you're talking about art with a capital A, and you're talking about performance with a capital P, you know, and it's just like, whoa, yeah, that's what I believe in. I believe in art with a capital A. I believe in being an artist with a capital A, and really owning that with joy and pleasure and all those things. And you know, theater happens to be this platform where I can flex and fly and do the things and hold space, but it's not necessarily like that perfect, you know, fit. But it's also like, I don't actually think there is a perfect fit for kind of art that I do. Like, even if I went to a museum, that would have its own bureaucracy there, you know. And I guess what I am is, I'm just kind of an artist navigating bureaucracy and trying to make sure it doesn't get me down, and trying to make sure that it's a thing that doesn't make me shrink. You know, if my art isn't growing me, if it's not growing my heart, if it's not growing my voice, my practice, whatever it is, then it's taking away from me, then it's making me smaller, it's diminishing me. And I just don't believe in a life of shrinking. You know, that's not, you know, I think about each of these projects that I do. I always have to tell myself that, you know, it's your life. It is your life. So what do you want to do with it? And in terms of, you know, walking into spaces, you know, what I appreciate so much is that both of you, Sophie and Mark, never tried to make me fit into a thing. You know, it was the opposite. It was, how can we make the space fit your mindscape, your dreamscape, what you want to make? You know, let there be a back and forth between the space and you to see what it inspires you to do. And I'm always, you know, for Bushwick Star, for example, you know, it was just like Infinite Love Party, a potluck dance party and sleepover for queer, trans people of color and their allies. Done. You know, so what needs to happen? All this shit needs to get cleared out. We need to bring in soft carpet, finger painting on the wall, you know, swings, all the stuff. Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I believe in gutting the space. I believe in simplicity. And if you look at these sets, and if you look at clairvoyance installations, it's very simple. You know, it's complicated because there are a lot of moving pieces, but in terms of what those pieces are, it's like a reading list, books, tables, you know, that took a minute to figure out how to configure them, but we figured it out. A big, huge canvas, paint, you know, it's just kind of creating like a market shopping list. And I think it's also important that I don't feel owned by any kind of institution or any genre, because because that's what makes it art to me. You know, that's what makes it exciting. That if I feel like singing, I can do that. But if I feel like singing, you know, in an office, then I'll sing. Well, I guess that's what NPR does. Whatever, you get what I mean. Okay.
Right. I wanna shout out Skip Curtis and the entire team at Oberon, because the more you were talking about space and the simplicity of that, I think they were extremely instrumental in making that happen, and the amount of discussion that we've had with them to translate your vision in something physical. I think that's their magic. That's really like how they really brought in their magic and created that moment every time.
And he did it with so much grace. You know, he did, even like, because I can imagine that being a very frustrating, weird thing of like, and this, and this, and this, and this, oh, but not that, and this, and this, and this, you know, right. Very like Project Runway vibes. And he was so generous and kind and never made me feel like an asshole, you know. So thank you for that.
Skip and that entire team. It's always that it's that heart forwardness, right? It's always there. And even if they have concerns or worries or anxiety about a direction we're going in, they'll like name it, we talk about it, we move through it. And I think Clairvoyance was like such an illustration of that, as like, as a team, like we will always have open channel communication. That's the only way we can get this work done in an honest, loving, caring way. And I think that was something that was like so at the core of the art you were making. It infused every conversation, and it's so core at what like this production team at A.R.T does, that those things complement each other in a beautiful, beautiful way. I want to ask some questions in the Q&A, and then if we have a little bit of time, I would also love to sneak in a clip of Hate Letter from a piece that you performed from Clairvoyance. We might not get there in time, but we'll see. So the first question is, what are your hopes, and this is, you know, for either of you, what are your hopes and dreams for theater as a whole as we come out of this like quarantine pandemic moment?
It gets brave and it stops the bullshit. And I mean, it kind of, it centers people of color in a real way, where they really are given space and trust and not needing to fit through a sieve. I don't want to see strained artistry anymore, like literally through a strain, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You talked about, you said something that reflected to me towards abundance. Like, abundance is not always money. I know like resources are always important, and that's like one of the producer that's speaking, but I don't think abundance comes only from money. And I think, yeah, just like stretching how can we as an industry stretch our mind together to create abundance in a moment that's difficult for all of us, and where we're all like wondering what's coming next, and centering POCs, just because like I feel like I'm a producer of color. There's not like a million of them in America right now, and I just want more people to just access that. So yeah.
And I will also say that a dream come true for an artist of color to work with a producer of color. It is everything for me. And I want to thank Kat, who was the stage manager, and Nicole, who was our stage
manager.
Both of them. Okay, great. They were both amazing.
Kat was on deck and on crew and Kat is extraordinary, and they were doing many, many things.
Yeah.
Why a ginkgo tree for the tree planting, and then also because art can create the space where folks can speak up. Can you discuss White People Read and sort of discuss that invitation and what it sort of suggested or presented?
Sure. The ginkgo tree is very simple. You know, I asked Ned for a Korean tree, and he said the Korean trees wouldn't come here in time, and the closest thing is this ginkgo tree. It was a ginkgo tree in that photo that blew me over with the Korean person standing in front of that ginkgo tree. And, it was a ginkgo tree from China. And so it was just kind of like the closest thing that, I sent a very heartful email to Sophie and Mark being like, oh my God, if we can get a Korean tree, I don't know. And my mom has a real love affair with ginkgo trees. It's a real vibe for her. So it just felt right for me. And then as for White People Read, I mean, that came, what's so great is that so many of these installations ideas kind of came out of almost jokes in a way. Like, I think, Sophie and I were joking around in the car, and I think I had like sent you a joke text or something like, what if it's White People Read? And that had come from like Sophie and I talking, and I had always kind of like White People Read was always here. Like I always just wanted to make a reading list and I would be guaranteed that every white person would read it. And, and it was just so great to put that reading list together, and that the Boston Public Library was down. I just never thought the Boston Public Library was going to be down with that, because it feels so confrontational.
Right.
So correct. And the magic that was there was that we put up White People Read when Robin DiAngelo was in town doing press for White Fragility that Sophie knew about, that we went to. We took a photo of Robin, then she like talked about the installation at her Harvard whatever bookstore, her next gig. And I have the amazing, another full circle thing is that I have the journals. I literally have the journals from last year, 2 years ago, from Clairvoyance. Like all the dreamscaping is in here.
Amazing.
These are the journals I kept that I wrote in during my time here.
It's 1 o'clock, y'all. Can you even imagine that? Just because we could go on and on and on. I think we'll try and pull this clip of Hate Letter and send it out to folks in our little post-show email so they can experience that. Thank you, Sophie and Diana, so much for taking this time and this sort of walk down Clairvoyance memory lane.
So good.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking us, Mark. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you for everything that you are. You're the best.
You're the best.
Here. Queer, bold or daring, brave, original, unrestrained by existing ideas or conventions, uninhibited.
Wow. Where did you get that?
In my journal.
Oh, love it. Thanks everyone for watching and joining us again today. Such a blast. 2 quick plugs to remind you about 1776 in Dialog happening tonight that Sarah mentioned. The link is in the chat, so check that out before you log off. What time is that tonight, Sophie?
That was the one.
Oh, Sarah's going to hate me because I forgot the time. The link is here, so check it out. Also, join us next week. Next week, we are joined by Carson Eddy and Cindy Lee Sullivan. They are our costume shop manager and our props master, respectively. Incredible artists at A.R.T. And we're going to dig into what is the process of making a costume and making a prop. So I hope you join us. Sarah's reminding me 6 p.m. tonight for 1776 Dialog. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Sophie. Thanks everyone for watching. Mwah. See you next week.